Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys for taking some time out of your day to join me. In today's video, I am gonna go over the awesome Sunday morning game between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Philadelphia Eagles. While it was not a great game per se, as far as how close it was, I think it allowed us to learn a lot about each of these teams, and let's get into it. I am going to talk about both offensive and defensive sides from both of these teams. I'm also going to cover my overall views, thoughts, and opinions on the game and look at what we have moving forward for the Bucs and the Eagles as well. If you guys have any questions or if you disagree with any of my takes, I would love to interact with you on it. Please drop those comments down below and get the conversation started. If you are new to the channel, welcome. Please consider liking and subscribing. Your support means so very much to me and it helps me out a ton. I'm battling for my first 200 subscribers. With that all done, let's get into this version of the Relentless Rundown. I'm not really sure if anyone outside of Philadelphia was taking the Eagles in this game. I honestly highly doubt it, but it was clear from the first offensive play where the Bucs had an 18-yard run by Keyshawn Vaughn that this was gonna be a one-sided affair. The Bucs ran 25 plays in the first quarter. The Eagles had 8 of them and Tampa Bay led 14-0. Tampa Bay had more first downs in that frame than overall plays run by Philly. They led 31-0 in the third. It was a complete team win for Tampa, who got great play from all 3 facets. The Eagles could not get anything going offensively early on. They put their team in a huge hole. They had just 1 first down on their first 3 possessions, and that came off of a Tampa Bay penalty. Jalen Hurts, he threw 2 picks, and one of them was in the end zone. A third pick he had was dropped, so he almost finished with the trio of them. He looked every part the rookie in his first playoff game. I don't think there's much that could be argued against that, and he's playing obviously in his second season. It is hard for me though to completely blame this guy. The offensive line certainly did him no favors. He was sacked twice on the day, but he was the receiver of 10 quarterback hits. Most of the day, he was running for his life, and very few times did he have anyone open down the field to target. The most important aspect that I see here was the fact that Philly got behind early, which is something they had to avoid doing. It caused them to completely abandon their game plan. They rushed only 17 times overall after leading the league, averaging almost 160 yards on the ground per game. That was number 1 in the NFL. Boston Scott had the 34-yard touchdown run. It was a worthless one as the game was already well in hand. But outside of that, they rushed 16 times for 59 yards. That was just over 3.5 yards per carry. I think that even Eagles fans could agree that they were not going to be able to pull off this upset without a lot of success on the ground and being able to control the clock and keep the ball away from Brady. When we look at the defensive side of things for Philadelphia, I really thought that they could hold up better on the defensive end as they had that ability to match up Mike Evans with Darius Slay and then cover the rest of the depleted wide receiver core for the Tampa Bay Bucs, and that seemed like a possibility. However, it was not to be the case. Instead, Brady was able to pick apart that secondary little by little. They did, however, rack up 4 sacks on the day, but they overall could not pressure Brady enough to make a difference in it. What the Eagles did do well was stop the run. They held Tampa Bay to just 106 yards on the ground, but even more importantly, it was on 31 carries for an average of under 3.5 yards a carry. The unfortunate part about that was they gave that most up late in the game when it was already over and the game was in hand. Tampa Bay's offense looked as crisp as ever. Brady was at the controls and he looked like he was in a groove. He took what the defense gave him and he was able to build that big lead. He finished 29 out of 37 for 271 yards and a pair of scores. It was simply business as usual for the GOAT. It almost looked too easy for him. Coming in, there was no secret to who his main target was going to be. It was Mike Evans as the go-to guy, and he went to him early and often, peppering him with targets. Evan had 9 receptions on 10 targets for 117 yards and a score, and he looked unstoppable for most of the day. Perhaps slightly concerning for the Bucs, that connection is going to have to continue to be strong for Tampa Bay, as no other receiver had even 40 yards receiving. Without Leonard Fournette or Ronald Jones, the ground game did just enough to keep the Eagles honest, but it certainly did not move the needle. It could be an area of concern next week when they face the Rams. There is a chance here that Fournette is back and healthy enough to play in that game, and that would add a completely different element to this offense and bring some pop into a backfield that needs it badly. For the defensive side of things, the Bucs did exactly what they needed to do in order to pull away in this one. They swallowed up the running game early, and they made Jalen Hurts very uncomfortable. This led to 3 turnovers from Philadelphia, and there was no way that they were going to lose this game when they won that turnover battle so handedly. Even though they finished with just a pair of sacks in this one, they were constantly pressuring up front and all over the field. For the entire day, they gave multiple looks and they deflected 7 passes. They dared Jalen Hurts to beat them with his arm, and he could not deliver. Antonio Winfield was absolutely masterful on the back end. He had a sack, he had 2 QB hits, and his interception in the first half sucked any life and hope that the Eagles could have possibly had left. I was very impressed at how this unit was able to tackle well, play together, and keep most things in front of them, especially until late. Overall, I would just say Philly did not have enough to make a run at the Bucs. Their slow start buried them, and their 3 turnovers sealed their fate. Many may be questioning Jalen Hurts' viability as a starting NFL quarterback right now. I've heard it a lot. I am not among them. I think that he is a young guy, he is raw, and he has a lot of promise and talent. For me, he needs, deserves, and has earned more time before that conversation can be had. I think there is hope left in Philadelphia. They're going to be competing for a playoff spot again next year. For Tampa Bay, they absolutely dominated this game from start to finish, and that is exactly what I was expecting. There is still something to be said about being able to take care of business in the playoffs, but the win did not change my mind on the perspective of this team. They are going to be hard to beat, just like any Tom Brady-led team is, but they need some help in the backfield. When you look at Keyshawn Vaughn and Giovanni Bernard, they are not enough, and the ability to be balanced on offense makes life so much easier for Tom Brady. They could struggle next week against the Rams if Jalen Ramsey is able to lock down Mike Evans, and they're going to need other playmakers to step up, plain and simple. Mike Evans and Rob Gronkowski need some help. They can only do so much. That being said, the Bucs, they were my preseason pick in the NFC, so I am not about to turn from that now. Their defense is getting healthier. That is absolutely enormous. And they played lights out against Philadelphia, which is encouraging. I think that they find a way to pull it out in what should be a tight game against LA. I'm going to take the Bucs 34 and the Rams 27. And that's all she wrote for me in this Relentless rundown. I appreciate you guys joining me for it. If you guys disagree with any of my takes, please drop it down below. I would love to get that conversation started. If you are new to the channel, welcome, welcome, welcome. Please consider liking and subscribing. Your support is so appreciated and it helps me out a bunch. This is Relentless Press. I'm your host, Abraham Opatz, and we'll see you next time.